When a user attempts to sign in to a computer, the computer first searches for a domain controller to authenticate the user by using DNS lookup. The computer then sends the user's name and password to the domain controller for authentication. The local security authority, LSA, on the domain controller handles the actual authentication process. If the sign-in succeeds, the LSA builds an access token for the user that contains the security IDs, SIDs, for the user and any groups in which the user is a member. The token provides the access credentials for any process that the user initiates. For example, after signing in to ADDS, if a user attempts to open a Microsoft Word file, Word uses the credentials in the user's access token to verify the level of the user's permissions for that file. Note: a SID is a unique string in the form SRXY1Y2YN1YN. For example, a user SID can be S15213223467121256085132190070995850. The following table explains the parts of this SID. Component definition in the example. S indicates that the string is in SID S. Our revision level 1. X identifier authority value 5, and T authority. Y1 Y2 YN1 domain identifier 2132234671212560851321900709958. YN relative ID, RID, 500. Every user and computer account and every group that you create has a unique SID. The SIDs differ from each other only because of the unique RID. The SID in the example is a well-known SID for the domain administrator account. Default accounts and groups use well-known SIDs. The domain administrator account's SID always ends with 500. Although the sign-in process appears to the user as a single event, it consists of two parts. The user provides credentials, usually a user account name and password, which are checked against the ADDS database. If the user account name and password match the information stored in the ADDS database, the user becomes an authenticated user and the domain controller issues the user a TGT. At this point, the user does not have access to any resources on the network. A secondary process in the background submits the TGT to the domain controller and requests access to the local computer. The domain controller issues a service ticket to the user, who then can interact with the local computer. At this point in the process, the user has authenticated to ADDS and signed in to the local computer. When a user subsequently attempts to connect to another computer on the network, the secondary process runs again, and the TGT is submitted to the nearest domain controller. When the domain controller returns a service ticket, the user can access the computer on the network, which generates a logon event at that computer. Note: remember that a domain-joined computer also signs into ADDS when it starts. You do not see the transaction when the computer uses its computer account name and password to sign in to ADDS. After authentication, the computer becomes a member of the authenticated users group. Although the computer logon event does not have visual confirmation in a GUI, the event log records it. Also, if you have enabled auditing, the security log of Event Viewer records additional events.